This is a brief introduction to the work of the Guerrilla Girls. In my opinion, one of the most important art collectives of a generation. In 1985, a group of women artists founded the Guerrilla Girls. They assumed the names of dead women artists and they famously wore gorilla masks to hide their identities. They wanted to concentrate on the issues rather than the personalities, and wearing those masks helped to do that. Between 1985 and 2000, close to 100 women worked collectively and anonymously to produce posters, billboards, public actions, books, and much, much more. All of this had a sense of humour to help get the message across. In recent years, the Guerrilla Girls have continued to make art. The GuerrillaGirls.com website was established by two founding members. Their intention was to create books and projects. Other members have also created GuerrillaGirlsOnTour.com. This is a touring theatre collective. They develop plays and performances and also perform workshops. This is an extension of their idea that you shouldn't just complain, you should act, you should try to change things. Another extension is Guerrilla Girls Broadband. This is a website and it was set up by a founding member, former members of the collective, and young feminists and artists of colour. Guerrilla Girls Broadband explore ideas such as feminism, fashion, and of course discrimination, both in the workplace and in society in general. This is done through their site and also their interactive and activist events. Do women have to be naked to get into the Met Museum? In the 80s, the Guerrilla Girls were looking at the way in which women were represented in the art world and in art galleries, and they found that less than 5% of artists in modern art sections are women, but 85% of the nudes are female. This image, with the classic female nude pose that we've seen many times in the art and design world, is made humorous by the addition of the gorilla mask. Guerrilla Girls were very much of the opinion that this was very wrong and more people needed to be made aware of it. But of course the conventional place for artists to display artwork is in art galleries, the very places that Guerrilla Girls were trying to criticise, and as such they started taking their work outside of galleries. So they put posters, billboards and stickers in the street, trying to raise awareness, trying to interest new people in art, but also to let them know that the art world was far from perfect when it come to gender issues. Here are a couple of other pieces that are particularly famous. So the image on the left, The Advantage of Being a Woman Artist, has a list of slightly sarcastic comments about things that would be an advantage if women were actually famous artists, or in an ironic sense because it's very difficult at the time and still now for many women artists to make a career within the art world. So you can see if you read those comments that some of them are quite sarcastic, but they also, as all Guerrilla Girls work does, push a very important point. And of course, they finish off with getting your picture in the art magazines wearing a gorilla suit. A little joke about the fact that art suddenly pays attention because of the activist nature of the work. Of course, the very name Guerrilla Girls is a play on both the gorilla mask but also guerrilla action. The image on the right fits in with this idea of using statistics to raise awareness. So you can see at the bottom left hand corner, this is an image from 1985/86. How many women had one-person exhibitions at New York City museums last year? And you can see that only one of the four major galleries in that year did do so. One of the main purposes of the Guerrilla Girls' work is to fight and challenge discrimination. They believe that art should be a forward-thinking movement, and I believe this too. So why, in such a forward-thinking movement as art, why are people not raising awareness of the fact that there is a clear gender bias within the art world? Guerrilla Girls have famously stated that most artists are doing good, but the art world as a whole is flawed. The Guerrilla Girls like to ask questions. The image on the left asks a big question, and it's done in the format of a Q&A card. So they ask the question, if February is Black History Month and March is Women's History Month, what happens for the rest of the year? And the answer is discrimination. The fact that these months have to take place is almost an acknowledgement from society that we do not have equality. The Guerrilla Girls also like to make demands. So the tea towel on the right hand side says, "Dearest art collector, it has come to our attention that your collection, like most, does not contain enough art by women. We know that you feel terrible about this and will rectify the situation immediately. All our love, Guerrilla Girls." Guerrilla Girls look quite closely at what they see as the establishment in the art world. I'm sure anyone who's been to art exhibitions has been told about how valuable certain pieces of art are and how much money there is in the art world now. So in this piece, they say, don't let museums reduce art to a small number of artists who've won a popularity contest among big-time dealers, curators and collectors. If museums don't show art as diverse as the cultures they claim to represent, tell them they're not showing the history of art, they are just preserving the history of wealth and power. And that's a very important statement. How can you properly represent a society if the art, a way of understanding that society, is so biased? And perhaps this forward-thinking art world, which was always intending to challenge establishments and to make people think outside of the box, perhaps they are just an extension of a lot of problems with equality in society itself. Guerrilla Girls often target collectors and art galleries. One of the main reasons that Guerrilla Girls make a lot of posters, flyers, fanzines, stickers, things that are easy to collect and cheap to produce, are because they believe that art should be for everyone. That's clearly stated in the statements on the previous slide, how art should represent all walks of society. But art should be for everyone as well. Why should the art world, which in many ways was there to protest against establishments, why should the art world become about money? So the image on the right hand side was projected onto an art gallery from the back of a van. If you go to the Guerrilla Girls website, you can see a video of them doing this. And it says, art is so expensive, even for billionaires, we completely understand why you can't pay your employees a living wage. And that is directed straight to the art collectors and talking about how many people in art do not earn very much money, but the people who profit in many ways from other people's skill and talent are making art become very much about money, finances and collections. And of course, many artists have challenged this, but Guerrilla Girls do it particularly effectively. And you can see the image on the left-hand side, a billboard image on the side of a building. They believe that art should be for everyone, and as such, a lot of their artwork goes outside of the gallery to raise awareness. Another thing Guerrilla Girls do to raise awareness is they create books. So these are examples of 2 books that the Guerrilla Girls have created. The Bedside Companion to the History of Western Art looks at how women have not been properly represented in a lot of books that talk about the history of Western art. So they put together an alternative history which highlights some amazing artists who were women and also talks about some of the problems that art has historically had with equality. The image on the right is for bitches and bimbos and ball breakers, and it's an illustrated guide to female stereotypes. So they look extensively at how lots of women within society and of course within the art world are stereotyped into certain roles. So these first set of images are from the history of Western art, and you can see that they've used the gorilla mask on some classical art imagery and then there's lots and lots of information. They believe very much that you should suggest possibilities for change, and one of the ways they do this is through educating, and that's what these books are for. Easy to get hold of, not expensive, and talking about women in art. And if you remember back to the introduction, the Guerrilla Girls did take the names of dead women artists, and one of the most prominent Guerrilla Girls is called Frida Kahlo, based on the famous artist Frida Kahlo. So that image at the top is talking about the original Frida Kahlo and her work, and then the image at the bottom is looking at the work of Hannah Hock. And throughout this book, you can see that they celebrate the work of famous women artists. This next one is from Bitches, Bimbos and Ball Breakers. So you can see how the introduction talks about stereotypes, and then the image on the right hand side looks at reasons why society stereotypes women. Just some of the reasons. And again, this gorilla mask is a prominent image that goes through their imagery. And on these pages you can see different stereotypical roles within society, that society stereotypes women, the way women should behave. So you can see on the left hand page they talk about supermodels, on the right hand page female executives or bosses, and they talk about how society imposes negative stereotypes on strong women. And then they also look at how women are portrayed through things like toys. So you can see that they have characters for particular stereotypes of women which are portrayed in these dolls. In recent years, the Guerrilla Girls have obviously evolved and don't just use their traditional methods of posters. They are very much taken on using the internet and film to spread their word. So these are some stills from some of the films they've created. The top left still is talking about how feminism is a word that should be used by everyone. Feminism is about equality, and a lot of people try and challenge the word feminism when really it is there for every member of society. Feminism is about equality for all. At the bottom, Be a Loser, they're talking about why success in art shouldn't be judged by monetary values. It shouldn't be about how much money you make. It should be about changing opinion, using your position to raise awareness and empower people. And then Being Anonymous, it takes the ego away, but people are intrigued by the humour suggested by the gorilla masks, and the juxtaposition of the dress and the gorilla mask in the top right hand corner plays along with a lot of themes in Guerrilla Girls' work. So they talk about this anonymous action which gets people intrigued, raises awareness, and also allows them to act with civil disobedience to raise awareness from time to time. The films on their website are excellent and you should watch them. So, have the Guerrilla Girls changed anything? Well, in my mind, the art world is a reflection of society, and we clearly do not live in an equal society, and in my mind it's everyone's responsibility to challenge that. The stickers on the left hand side show that in 1985 those galleries only had no more than 10% women artists or none at all. And then the image on the right hand side shows that by 2014 those galleries had 20%. Of course that's progress, but the big question that everyone should be asking is, why is it not 50-50? You only have to look around your classroom if you're doing an art and design course to realise that lots of people who aren't men are interested in art and design. So why is that not reflected? I don't have the answers to this, but I do know that I've learned a lot about these issues from researching the work of the Guerrilla Girls, and I've been inspired to play my part and do more to help get a more equal art world, but also a more equal society. So for me, the Guerrilla Girls have massively empowered many people, they have educated many people, and their role in society is still absolutely vital, as is their role in the art world. We are a long way off having true equality, but artists and collectives such as the Guerrilla Girls are helping us to move in that direction. There's still a lot of work to do, but without them, we might not get there. For me, the purpose of art and design is to change minds, to change opinions, to get people thinking in different ways. So by that sense, I would say the Guerrilla Girls have been absolutely amazingly successful. But of course, changing the way a whole society and a whole art world thinks takes time and lots of people working together. One of the things I love about Guerrilla Girls is they don't just tell people what is wrong. They try and do things. They try and be positive and try to make a change. The image on the right hand side is for workshops they ran at the Tate in London in 2016, a complaints department operated by the Guerrilla Girls, and that was an opportunity for everyone to speak to the Guerrilla Girls, to talk about things that they felt were wrong about society and the art world, and to come up with ways to challenge these issues through art and design. And that involvement, alongside the workshops and theatre groups they run, is incredibly inspiring. Getting involved, not seeing themselves as being above their audience, as seeing themselves as being very much part of a community that is trying to change things for the better. And that is incredibly inspiring for me. So, here are a few resources you should look at. GuerrillaGirls.com has links to all the other sites I've mentioned, and obviously lots of imagery and lots of information about campaigns they're doing at the moment. I've seen some Guerrilla Girls work in the Tate. It is on display at the moment, and I suppose the fact that I can talk confidently about seeing the Guerrilla Girls work in exhibitions is a small step in the right direction, but surely only the start, and change must continue throughout the art world. But the resources that the Tate has about the Guerrilla Girls are very useful and worth having a look at. And then I follow Guerrilla Girls on Instagram, and they're still doing lots of stuff. And obviously in today's society, social media is an excellent way of ensuring you keep up with what art people are doing. So please check that out.